Hello everyone, this is Professor Peterson from your Math 151 class online. I'm here to give a demonstration video about how to use our graphing calculator to do Activity 1. So, Activity 1 can be found in Blackboard and should be downloaded and looks like this. So, we're going to use these steps to find the linear regression, the line of best fit for the data. So the front or the first page of this activity, Activity 1, is actually just the steps, what we're going to be pushing on the calculator to do the linear regression or find the line of best fit for the data. So I'll be walking through the front side with you. Your guys' activity is to do the problems on page 2 or on the back. So I'll be pulling my graphing calculator up and we'll be walking through this together. So let's go ahead and get started on number 1 here. So if I grab my TI graphing calculator, so remember we need to have a TI 84 graphing calculator. Here it comes. So first thing we're going to need to do when we follow these instructions is we're going to press our stats key, and that's going to pull up a screen that looks like this, and then we press enter to get edit. So now we have our L1 and our L2. So we put our X values in the column L1 and we put our Y values in the column L2. So for this we're going to use 0, 2, 2, 4, and 8. And then in L2 we're going to put in our Y values, which are 0, 3, 4, 5, and 7. Alright, so we just double check, make sure that our values are correct, and let's see, we have 0, 2, 2, 4, and 8 for the x's, that's good, and 0, 3, 4, 5, 7. So now we have our values correctly in our table, so then what we're going to do is we want to turn our statistical plots on. So we're going to press our second key and y equals, and we're going to go all the way down to choice number 5, which turns our plots on. We press enter, press it one more time, and it'll tell us we're done. So we press graph, and now it's plotted that table of ordered pairs for us. So when we look at that data set, it's not a perfect line, but it does appear that it is a pretty linear looking data set. So let me grab this. And so if we were to take a look at it, as I said, it's not a perfect line, but we could sketch something and say, okay, well, that line's pretty good. We'll talk about how to determine how good that line is a little bit later in number 3. So we've got our graph, and this time we didn't need to adjust our window. But if we did, we would press our window key, and we could change it so we could just look at the values in the first quadrant by making x min 0, x max 10, y min 0, and y max 10. This time when we graph it, we would just get a scatter plot that looked like this. So in your activity, you're going to need to adjust your window a little bit to make sure that you're seeing all of your data points. Okay, so it look like this, and it's really just that same picture, but we've zoomed in a little bit. All right, so now we want to find our linear regression for our data. So let's get to work on number 2 here. So the first thing we're going to need to do is go back into our stats menu. So we're going to hit stats again, and this time we're not going to edit. We're going to press our right arrow and move over to calculate, and we are going to use our down arrow or just press the number 4 to choose option number 4, which is our linear regression. And then we are going to press enter 3 times until we get down to the line that says store regression equation. Once there, we are going to press our alpha key, and then we are going to press trace, and we are going to select the variable y1, and then we press enter a couple more times, and our calculator is going to look like this. So if your calculator looks like this, where we're seeing just ax plus b, and it's only giving us the values of a and b, we need to go alter a setting inside of our calculator because it's not giving us some information that we're going to need a little bit later. So we go back to our calculator. If it looks like this, you're going to press your mode key, and then we need to scroll down until we get to our statistical diagnostics, and they're off, and turn them to on. So second quit. If we go to stat and we go back and do the linear regression again, down to regression equation, alpha trace y1, hit enter, enter. This time we'll notice that since we had our statistical diagnostics on, that we got some more information. We're going to need that R value in the next part. So now, question 3, or part 3, is actually asking about that R value. So let's grab that really quick. So it says, use the correlation coefficient or the residual to decide if the line is a good fit to the data, and then we want to report the correlation coefficient to 3 places. So the correlation coefficient is the R right here, and we want to report it to 3 decimal places. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3 here, and using our 5-up rounding rule, we're going to get that R is approximately equal to 0.930 because it rounds up, or 0.93. All right, so now we're moving on to number 4 here, and it says use the linear regression to estimate the value of this function when x is 15. So the first thing we're going to notice is let's press graph on our calculator. So we changed our window when you had the dots, but now it's actually graphing that line. So back in step 2, when we pressed the alpha trace when we were choosing to store the regression equation, it actually saved that whole thing into our calculator right here. So if we come back up and look, what was our A value? Well, it was 0.7934, all of this stuff. You'll see that it saved that into our calculator, so we didn't have to type it manually. That's going to make our lives a lot easier. So now we want to do some calculations with this function that we have. So we go second and quit to get back to our home screen. And part 4 says use the linear function to estimate the output when x is 15. So what we're going to do is press alpha and trace again, and we're going to select y1, and then this works just like function notation. So I do my parenthesis, I put my 15 in, close my parentheses and press enter, and it tells me that when I do that, I get the corresponding output of 13.163. So that would be our estimate using the line of best fit to find the value at that point. All right. So that is how we're going to use our calculator to find a linear regression. So now for you guys, if you look on the back, you're going to have a different data set, but it's going to ask you to do essentially these same things. So please take some pictures of your calculator screen and include those when you're turning in your activity. As always, make sure you're posting in the discussion board, and feel free to email me if you have any questions. All right, have a great day and be awesome.